Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be taking you on a journey into the world of artificial general intelligence.
Okay.
And I think most people, when they hear AGI,
Right.
kind of think about, like, the Terminator or like
Yeah.
some scary, future with AI. But AGI is actually something that is a little bit different from that.
Right.
It's really about
Yeah.
an AI that can kind of learn and adapt and apply its intelligence
Right.
across a wide range of domains, just like humans do.
So not just in one particular area, but in many different.
Yeah, it's about that general intelligence that
All
humans have, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the ultimate goal of AGI. And
Yeah.
we've got our hands on some cutting-edge research that explores how we might actually get there.
That's right. This research focuses on large language models, or LLMs.
LLMs.
Which have shown incredible potential in recent years.
I mean, we see this all the time, like in the news. You've probably heard of models like GPT-3.
Right.
The one that can write surprisingly human-like text.
Yes. And even Paul ME, which can control robots.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm constantly amazed by what these LLMs can do.
Yeah. They can solve
Seems like every day
complex problems,
there's something new.
Generate creative content.
Even learn new things they haven't been explicitly trained on.
Like, is there anything they can't do?
Well, that's the question, right? That's what this research dives into.
And that's what we're going to be diving into today.
Exactly. It asks this really crucial question.
Yeah.
Are these LLMs truly intelligent?
Right.
Or are they just incredibly good?
Like, are they just mimicking
really good parrots?
Yeah.
Or is there something more there?
The massive amounts of data they've been trained on, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And the researchers argue that while LLMs are powerful, they still lack something crucial. A deep contextual understanding of the world.
They're missing something.
They are. They might be able to string together words beautifully.
Yeah, they can write a beautiful poem or a song or whatever.
But without true comprehension, their output can sometimes be nonsensical or miss the bigger picture.
So how do we bridge that gap? How do we move from these powerful but limited LLMs to
this research is all about
truly intelligent AGI?
So the researchers propose 4 fundamental principles, they call them pillars, that are essential for achieving AGI.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, ready?
What are these pillars?
All right. They are embodiment, symbol grounding, causality, and memory.
Embodiment, symbol grounding, causality, and memory.
Yes.
Those are the 4 pillars. All right, let's start with embodiment.
Okay.
What does it mean to give an LLM a body?
So imagine an LLM that's not just processing text, but actually interacting with the physical world just like we do.
Okay.
That's the idea behind embodiment.
To be a robot.
It could be a robot body.
Like in those Boston Dynamics videos.
Like the one controlled by Paul ME.
Yeah, those things freak me out.
Or even a simulated body within a virtual environment.
Okay.
The point is to allow the LLM to learn through direct experience, not just from passively consuming data.
So it's like the difference between reading about cooking and actually getting your hands dirty in the kitchen.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
By interacting with the world, the LLM can develop a much richer and more grounded understanding of things.
Like if you really want to learn how to cook, you got to get in there.
You have to do it.
Got to make a mess.
Right. It can learn about the properties of objects, the laws of physics, and how actions lead to consequences.
Right. You can't get that from just reading a book.
You can't. It's very different to actually experience it.
I can see how that would be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
But I imagine there are also some huge challenges, like designing robots.
It's really difficult.
And realistic simulations is no easy feat.
It's a complex undertaking, both from a hardware and software perspective, but the potential payoff is huge.
I mean, could you imagine, like...
Yeah, imagine an LLM.
An LLM that can, like...
That can not only understand language...
I don't know, fold my laundry or do the dishes.
But also navigate a kitchen, prepare a meal, or even assist with complex tasks.
I mean, people are already, like, losing their minds over, like, chatbots. Like, if you give them a robot body.
I know.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think about.
It's mind-boggling.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered embodiment.
Yeah.
What about the second pillar, symbol grounding?
Okay, so this is all about bridging the gap
Okay.
between abstract symbols like words
Right.
and their meaning in the real world.
Okay.
Think about how effortlessly you understand the concept of happiness.
Yeah.
You can connect that word
Yeah.
to a range of emotions, experiences,
Right.
and even facial expressions.
If I say happy,
Right.
you think about smiling.
Right, but for an LLM,
Yeah.
happiness is just a string of letters.
It doesn't know what it means.
Doesn't inherently understand the concept
It's
behind the symbol. Yeah.
data. It's just ones and zeros.
And without symbol grounding,
Right.
LLMs are limited to manipulating symbols
Okay.
based on patterns they've observed
Right. They're
in their training data.
doing what they've been trained to do.
Yeah. Right. They can't truly reason about the world or
Conquer.
make meaningful connections.
So how do we tackle this challenge
Yeah. So how do we do that?
of symbol grounding?
Well, the researchers explore several approaches, and each has its own strengths and weaknesses. One approach is using knowledge graphs,
Knowledge graphs.
which are basically structured databases
Okay.
that link words to concepts
Okay.
and relationships.
So like a giant.
Think of it like a giant web of
uh,
interconnected ideas.
Yeah. Okay.
This helps LLMs understand how different concepts relate to each other.
That sounds like a good starting point.
Yeah, it is, but
But I imagine there are some limitations.
there are some limitations, definitely.
Like how do you even build a knowledge graph?
Well, building and maintaining knowledge graphs can be incredibly complex,
Yeah. I mean, language is so nuanced.
especially when you're dealing with
Well-
the vastness and ambiguity
Like how could you possibly
of human language.
encompass all of that?
Right. And even with a comprehensive knowledge graph,
Yeah.
there's still the challenge of ensuring the LLM can effectively use it to reason and learn.
So it's not enough to just
It's not just about having the information.
have the information.
It's about knowing how to use it intelligently.
Right. You got to be able to use it.
Exactly.
Okay, so knowledge graphs are one approach.
Yes.
What are some other ways to tackle symbol grounding?
Another method is called embedding,
Embedding.
where words and concepts are
Okay.
represented as points
Right.
in a multidimensional space.
Multi-dimensional space.
This allows the LLM to capture
Okay.
the semantic relationships between words
Right.
based on the proximity in this space.
Okay.
For example, words like king and queen
Right.
would likely be clustered together,
Yeah.
while words like hot and cold would be further apart.
Right.
So that's the idea.
I can see how that would help the LLM
Yeah.
grasp the nuances of language.
Right.
But is it enough to achieve true symbol grounding?
It's a step in the right direction,
Okay.
but it's not a complete solution.
Okay.
Embeddings can capture similarities in relationships, but they don't necessarily ground those relationships
Right.
in real-world experiences.
So again, it's like
And there's still the risk of bias
are missing.
keeping in based on the data used to create the embeddings.
Right. They're missing that lived experience.
Exactly.
So it seems like symbol grounding
Yeah,
is a complex puzzle with no easy answers.
it really is.
What other approaches are being explored?
One particularly interesting avenue is active exploration,
Active exploration.
where LLMs are given the ability to learn through trial and error
Okay.
in simulated environments.
So like a video game.
Yeah, like a video game.
Okay.
The idea is to allow them to interact with the world, test their hypotheses, and learn from their mistakes,
Okay.
much like a child learning through play.
So it's like giving them a safe space
Yeah,
to
exactly.
experiment and learn.
Without any real-world consequences.
Yeah, because if they mess up in the real world,
Exactly.
the consequences could be huge.
Yeah, it could be dangerous.
Okay.
So this is a way to mitigate those risks.
That sounds fascinating.
It is.
But I can also see it being computationally expensive.
Yeah, it can be.
Running all those simulations
It is computationally expensive.
would require a lot of processing power.
It would. It's still in its early stages.
Okay.
And there are significant computational challenges.
Yeah, but I can see the potential there.
Yeah, the potential is huge.
Yeah.
It holds immense promise
Yeah.
for helping LLMs develop a
Yeah.
deeper understanding of the world
Okay, so we
and how it works. Embodiment, we've got symbol grounding,
Right.
and it's clear that
Symbol grounding is a crucial stepping stone on the path to AGI.
it is.
But I'm curious, how does all of this connect to the third pillar,
Yeah.
causality?
Well, Understanding causality is essential for any intelligent system that needs to make decisions and interact with the world without a grasp of cause and effect.
Yeah.
An LLM might make flawed assumptions or even dangerous choices.
It could, set my house on fire.
It could. Let me give you an example.
Okay, yeah, give me an example.
So imagine an LLM that's controlling a self-driving car.
Okay, so we're back in the car.
Back in the car.
Right.
It might observe that when people put on their windshield wipers, it often starts raining.
Right.
But without understanding causality, it might mistakenly conclude that the wipers cause the rain.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's bad.
That would be a problem.
Yeah, that's not good.
So causality
is
about more than just...
Causality is about understanding.
Recognizing
the underlying reasons for things.
It's about understanding the underlying mechanisms that drive those patterns.
Okay, so it needs to understand,
Exactly, the why.
Yes.
The why.
Okay.
And for an LLM to achieve AGI, it needs to go beyond simple correlations.
So how do we teach an LLM about cause and effect?
Well, there are a few promising approaches.
Okay.
One is using causal graphical models.
Causal graphical models.
Which are essentially diagrams that map out the cause and effect relationships between different variables.
Okay.
It's like a visual representation.
It's like a flowchart.
Of how different actions or events influence each other.
Okay.
Yes, like a flowchart.
Right. I can get a picture of that.
For understanding the chain of events that lead to a particular outcome.
Okay.
These models can be used to help LLMs reason about cause and effect, predict the consequences of actions, and even learn new causal relationships.
All right, so
data.
We're starting to unravel the complexities of AGI here.
We are, one pillar at a time.
One pillar at a time.
Yeah.
But we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
Maybe we should take a pause here and delve into the fourth pillar, memory.
Sounds good.
In our next segment.
Memory is a fascinating and crucial aspect of intelligence, and there's much to explore.
I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, we'll be right back after the break.
See you then.
To explore memory.
All right.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the quest for artificial general intelligence. Before the break, we were talking about causality.
Yeah, the third pillar of AGI.
Right, and how LLMs can be taught to understand these cause and effect relationships.
Yeah, cause and effect is crucial for everything from making accurate predictions to understanding the consequences of actions in the real world.
You mentioned causal graphical models, which are like those flowcharts that map out these relationships. But are there any other ways to teach LLMs about cause and effect?
Absolutely. There's another approach called physics-informed world models.
Physics-informed world models.
Yeah. Essentially, it involves teaching LLMs about the fundamental laws of physics.
Okay.
Not just through abstract equations, but through simulations.
So instead of just memorizing formulas, the LLM gets to experience how gravity works.
Exactly.
Or forces or other physical laws.
In a virtual world.
In a virtual world.
Yeah.
So like a video game.
Precisely by interacting in a simulated environment governed by these laws, the LLM can develop a more intuitive understanding of how actions lead to consequences.
So it's like giving the LLM a virtual playground.
Think of it like giving the LLM a virtual playground where it can experiment and learn through direct experience.
Yeah, like the difference between reading about how a bicycle works and actually riding one yourself.
It's that hands-on experience that really solidifies the understanding.
Okay, so we've covered embodiment, simple grounding, and causality.
Yes.
Now let's move on to the final pillar of AGI.
The final pillar.
Which is memory.
Memory.
Why is memory so important for achieving AGI?
Well, just like humans, an AGI needs a robust memory system to learn, adapt, and grow without memory. It's like starting from scratch every time it encounters a new problem or situation.
Like trying to learn a language without remembering any of the words or grammar rules you've encountered before?
Imagine that.
It would be so frustrating.
It would be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, so an AGI needs to be able to store information, retrieve it when needed, and use it to inform its decisions and actions.
Exactly, and that brings us to the different types of memory that are relevant for AGI.
Okay, break it down for me.
Just like humans, an AGI would need different types of memory for different purposes.
What are these different types of memory?
Well, first there's sensory memory.
Sensory memory.
Which is all about briefly storing immediate sensory input.
Okay.
Think of it like a buffer that holds on to sights, sounds, and other sensations just long enough for the LLM to process them.
So it's like a...
It's like a fleeting impression of the world that fades quickly if it's not deemed important enough to retain.
It's like when you glance at a passing car.
Exactly.
You might briefly register its color and shape, but unless there's a reason to remember it, that information quickly disappears from your mind.
Exactly. Then there's working memory.
Working memory.
Which is like our mental scratch pad.
Okay.
It's where we hold and manipulate information for current tasks, like remembering a phone number while dialing it.
Right.
Or following the steps in a recipe.
So it's the memory we use for like active thinking.
Precisely.
And problem solving.
Work memory is essential for any intelligent system that needs to perform complex tasks that require holding multiple pieces of information in mind simultaneously.
Okay, so we have sensory memory for fleeting impressions.
Yes.
Working memory for active thinking. And then there's
long-term memory.
Long-term memory.
This is the vast storehouse of knowledge and experiences that we accumulate over time. It's where we store everything from our childhood memories to the facts we learned in school to the skills we've developed over the years.
So long-term memory is the key to learning and growth.
Absolutely.
Both for humans and for AGI.
It's what allows us to build upon our past experiences, make connections between different pieces of information, and develop a deep understanding of the world. Without long-term memory, we'd be stuck in an endless loop of rediscovering the same things over and over again.
And now I remember you mentioned something called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG.
RAGs.
Yes, in the first part.
It's a game changer when it comes to long-term memory for LLMs.
How does RAG fit into this picture of long-term memory for AGI?
Essentially, it allows LLMs to tap into vast external databases of information, effectively expanding their memory capacity beyond their internal limits.
So instead of trying to cram all of the world's knowledge into an LLM's internal memory, we can give it the tools to access and retrieve information from external sources as needed.
This opens up a whole new world of possibilities for LLMs. They can potentially access and process information from books, articles, scientific papers.
Like it can just go on the internet?
Databases, and even the entire internet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing.
It is, but I imagine there are still challenges in effectively using RAG.
Yeah, like just having access to information.
You're absolutely right.
Doesn't necessarily mean the LLM can understand it.
One of the key challenges
is
how to organize and retrieve information efficiently from these vast external knowledge bases.
Right. It's like having a massive library without a good cataloging system.
It's like having a massive library without a good cataloging system.
Yeah, you might have all the knowledge in the world.
You might have all the knowledge in the world.
But good luck finding the specific piece you need.
But good luck finding the specific piece you need when you need it.
When you need it.
Right.
So how do we tackle this challenge of organizing and retrieving information?
So how do we do that?
In LLM's long-term memory.
Well, one approach that's gaining traction is using vector databases.
Vector databases?
These databases store information as vectors, which are essentially points in a high-dimensional space.
High-dimensional space.
This allows for very efficient similarity search, meaning the LLM can quickly retrieve information that's semantically similar to what it's looking for, even if it doesn't have an exact keyword match.
Can you give me an example of how that would work in practice?
Sure. Imagine the LLM is trying to understand a news article about a complex political situation. It might encounter the term geopolitical tensions and need to quickly access information about the history of conflicts in that specific region, the political ideologies of the involved parties, and so on. A vector database could help the LLM rapidly retrieve relevant information from various sources based on the semantic similarity to the concept of geopolitical tensions.
So it's like the LLM can say, show me everything you have that's related to this concept.
And the vector database.
Can pull up information from all sorts of different sources.
We can pull up information from all sorts of different sources.
Even if those sources never explicitly use...
Even if those sources never explicitly use the exact same phrase.
The exact same phrase.
Precisely. It allows for a much more flexible and nuanced approach to information retrieval.
That's fascinating. Are there any other approaches being explored for organizing long-term memory in AGI?
Another interesting approach is to integrate structured knowledge into long-term memory, using things like knowledge graphs, which we discussed earlier, and causal graphical models.
Yeah.
These models provide a more organized and interpretable representation of knowledge.
So instead of just storing like a jumble of facts,
allowing the LLM to reason about relationships between concepts.
The LLM can actually understand the connections between them.
Make inferences and even learn new rules.
Like how gravity relates to fallen objects and weight.
Exactly. And this structured knowledge can be incredibly valuable for all sorts of cognitive tasks, from understanding complex language to making predictions about the world.
It seems like we're starting to get a clearer picture of what an AGI's memory might look like.
We are.
A combination of raw data, structured knowledge, and the ability to tap into external sources through RI. But there's still that big question looming. How do we know if an AI is truly displaying general intelligence, not just mimicking it?
That's the core challenge in AGI research.
Yeah, and it brings us to another important concept from the research paper.
It does.
Which we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
So the AI needs to be able to reflect on its own thinking.
Yeah.
Its knowledge, and even its limitations. This is getting really deep.
It is, and we'll delve into those fascinating questions in the next segment.
Okay, I can't wait. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring the quest for artificial general intelligence, delving into the 4 pillars.
Embodiment, symbol, grounding, causality, and memory.
Right. But now we're stepping into even more thought-provoking territory.
Indeed, we left off with the concept of self-awareness in AI.
Self-awareness.
Now, let's be clear, we're not talking about AI becoming sentient or having emotions like humans do. But for AGI to truly reach its potential, it needs a certain level of self-reflection.
So what does self-awareness look like in the context of AGI?
Imagine an LLM tasked with designing a bridge. A self-aware LLM wouldn't just blindly apply formulas and calculations. It would be able to recognize the limits of its own knowledge. Maybe there are specific soil conditions it doesn't have data on, or unique environmental factors it hasn't considered.
So instead of just spitting out a design, it would know when to say, hey, I need more information, or even, this is outside my area of expertise. I need help from a human engineer.
Exactly. That ability to introspect, to recognize gaps in its own knowledge is crucial for an AGI to be truly reliable and avoid making potentially dangerous mistakes.
It's like the difference between someone who blindly follows instructions.
Precisely.
And someone who can think critically about the task at hand. And knows when to ask for help or clarification.
And this self-awareness goes beyond just recognizing knowledge gaps. It also includes understanding its own strengths and limitations.
So it's not just about being smart.
For example, an AGI might be exceptional at analyzing data and identifying patterns, but recognize that it lacks the creativity or empathy needed for certain tasks that require a more human touch.
It's about being smart enough to know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And being able to leverage other resources, whether it's different AI systems or even human collaboration to fill those gaps.
And this brings us back to the core question. How do we measure if an AI is truly intelligent? It's not just about passing a Turing test or performing well on specific benchmarks.
It's got to be more than that.
It's about demonstrating this kind of flexible, adaptable intelligence that includes self-awareness and the ability to learn and grow.
You know, thinking about AGI in this way makes it seem less like a scary, futuristic concept. And more like a natural extension of our own capabilities.
I agree.
After all, we humans are constantly learning, adapting, and relying on each other's strengths.
AGI, when approached thoughtfully, has the potential to be an incredible tool for solving some of humanity's biggest challenges and enhancing our own creativity and problem-solving abilities.
This has been such an illuminating deep dive. We've explored the 4 pillars of AGI.
Yeah, it really has.
Delved into the importance of self-awareness.
Absolutely.
And touched upon the potential benefits and challenges.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up, I can't help but wonder, what's next for AGI?
That's the question everyone's asking.
What are the big unanswered questions that researchers are grappling with?
That's a great question, and it's one that researchers around the world are actively exploring.
Okay.
One of the key areas of focus is how to ensure that AGI is developed ethically and responsibly.
Right, because we've talked about the potential benefits.
We have.
But it's crucial to consider the potential risks as well.
Absolutely. Things like algorithmic bias, job displacement,
Yeah.
and even the possibility of AGI exceeding human control are valid concerns.
Yeah, those are big ones.
That we need to address head on.
So how do we do that?
Ensuring that AGI is developed with human values at its core, that it's aligned with our goals and aspirations,
Okay.
is paramount. And this requires not just technical expertise,
Right.
but also deep collaboration between AI researchers, ethicists, policymakers,
And all of us.
and society as a whole.
It's a complex challenge, but one that we can't afford to ignore.
We can't.
As we continue down this path toward AGI, it's essential to have open and honest conversations about the potential risks and rewards.
I agree.
And to ensure that this powerful technology is used for the betterment of humanity.
Well said.
So, to our listeners, as we conclude this journey into the world of artificial general intelligence, we leave you with a final thought. What does a future with AGI look like to you?
What does it look like to you?
What hopes and concerns do you have? The quest for knowledge, like AGI itself, is an ongoing process, and we encourage you to continue exploring, questioning,
deep learning,
and engaging with this fascinating field.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
We'll see you next time.
We look forward to exploring more fascinating topics with you in the future.